Shalom, shalom everybody. How you doing, guys? Can you see me? Yeah. Just give me the thumbs up if you're there. Yeah. Hola. Shalom, darling. How you doing? So good to see you here anyway. Shalom, shalom. Uh, oh, Phyllis Logo and Mary Rockemore. Shalom, guys. Uh, Awesome, awesome. Atlanta, right? Was it? You from Atlanta, Ora, right? Hi, Phil. Shalom, shalom. Awesome, guys. So good to see you here. Hi, Anne. I'm waving too. And Heidi, shalom, shalom. Welcome back, guys. So good to see you here. I hope you like the studies. I would imagine you do since you're back with me. Yes. How is things in Atlanta, Aura? Things have come down over there? Anne, shalom. Shalom, shalom. Sharon, shalom, darling. Elizabeth, shalom, shalom. Alison, darling. Darling Alison. Sharon, shalom, darling, shalom. Excellent. So how things over there, Aura? In Atlanta, things have come down over there? Alison, good morning from Nashville. Good morning, darling. How are you? So good to see you here. Anybody else would like to say good morning? So restrictions are high here in Israel, but the numbers of people getting infected are going up all the time. So I don't know. There are some people that are ill, but you know, they're not very serious illness. And there are a few, I would say 0.1% of people that get seriously sick and they go to hospital, and that's it. That's what's happening here in Israel. Shalom, Heidi. Shalom, Sherry from Michigan. And Heidi from Sydney, Australia. Shalom, darling. So good to see you all here. Oh, Ora, I'm glad. Everything is good in Atlanta. 7 a.m. Corona is on the rise, but we are safe. Yeah, that's what's happening here in Israel as well. Sherry, shalom, darling. Excellent. So, yeah, it's, I don't know. This corona have caused a worldwide economic crash. I think is pretty serious here in Israel. There's more than 2 million people unemployed. The government originally just gave us 100 days of unemployment benefit, but they have extended it for a whole year. So that means that we are safe, thank God. Yeah. Lori, shalom, darling. I can see you, you're in. Andrew, shalom, shalom, welcome back. Okay, so guys, if you would like to get your resources, and this is actually, it says English Deception to Israel's Occupied Territories, Part 2. That's what you want, okay? Shalom, Andrew, shalom. Lori, shalom, darling. Okay, so you need to get the resources, okay, guys? And And we're going to start. Okay, we're going to wait a little bit for everybody to get in, and then we're going to start. Yeah, it's we had 1,600 people getting infected yesterday in one day. So it's going fast, but most people here in Israel are not that sick. And if they do get sick, they get treated very quickly, and therefore hardly any people died out of it. So it's pretty good. Shalom, Roxanne from Sydney. Good to see you here, darling. Okay, we'll wait for more people to get in. We'll just wait another few minutes, and then we're going to start. For those that actually don't know me, my name is Sonia Waters. I'm broadcasting every Tuesday in English, and is at 2 in the afternoon here in Israel. Of course, you can take it afterwards. You can see the recording afterwards if you like. All the studies are on a folder on Facebook. You can actually go and see the resources and the videos of all the studies we have done. We also have a YouTube channel that is called Sonia Waters Israel. You need to subscribe, and you'll be able to see all the videos that have been done, both in English and in Spanish, okay? Hi, Marielle, darling. How you doing? Good to see you here. I've just been talking to her on Messenger. Yeah, well, we do have some deaths. Generally, the people that die have complications with other diseases that get all mixed up with the COVID-19, and that's why they die. But most people here, you know, the flu epidemic actually killed more people last year than this COVID-19. I really don't understand what's the panic about the COVID-19. I think maybe there's another agenda going on here. I might be wrong, okay? But there we are. Shalom, Diana. Good to see you here, darling. Shalom, shalom. Okay, so do have your resources. We also have the, for those that are following me already and know about the latter years, you remember the video that I spoke about Turkey and Iraq and Iran and all this issue that is going on in the north of us with Syria. If you haven't seen the video, you need to see the video in the resources. I actually put it there, and it's very much going on at the moment, is that Iran have joined forces with Turkey. Okay, so exactly what we talked about on the latter year video is exactly what's happening now. And what they're trying to do, Turkey and Iran, they're trying to take over the Middle East. Turkey wants to create the Ottoman Empire again. The Ottoman Empire was in the Middle East, actually hold on to most of the Mediterranean Sea and the areas around the Mediterranean Sea and also the Middle East for 400 years. So they were quite strong, the Ottoman Empire, and it collapses after the First World War. So what do the Turkish are trying to do again is to make the Ottoman Empire again. Want to go to the old ways, you know? And they're joining forces with Iran. And this is exactly what's happening. Which is amazing, you know, how the Bible predicted this 2,500 years ago. It's pretty amazing, yeah? Okay, so guys, have you got your resources? Please give me the thumbs up. Okay, if you got the resources, Shalom, Debbie. I see that you're watching as well. Shalom, shalom. Okay, so please open the resources. Let me know that you got them. Okay, and we're going to start the lesson. Please give me the thumbs up or something, okay? Okay, so I can see one thumb up. Any more? Any more people that got it? Okay, you need to have the resources because, you know, there's maps, there is all kinds of information that you need. You can go and read more about it afterwards. And it's actually, you know, very useful. Okay, very good. I can see the thumbs up, so we're okay, ready to go. And let's start by praying, and then we can continue. Okay, Elohe Abraham, Elohe Yitzchak, Elohe Yaakov, אנו מודים לך, אבא, שאתה הבאת את האנשים האלה אליי. אני מבקשת בשם ישוע משיח שאתה תברך אותם, שאתה תהיה איתם, שרוח קודשך יהיה איתם, ואני מבקשת, אבא, שאני לא אבלבל אותם, שהם ידעו מה שאני מדברת, שהם יבינו מה שאני מדברת, בשם ישוע משיח, אמן ואמן. Okay, so we're going to start, guys. You need to go to the resources, and please open up the resources. And I would like you to see the title of the resources, okay, is Israel Occupied Territories Part 2. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to do a recap, a little recap, well, not so little, about 10 minutes of a recap of what we did last lesson. I'm not going to go into detail. We're going to go fast, okay? And then I'm going to continue with the information, and I'm going to take you to what is the situation today. Now, people have asked me what's happening with this annexation of the West Bank and so on. So I wanted to explain to you what's going on with that, okay? But for you to be able to understand, Shalom Olean from Atlanta, Shalom darling. For you to be able to understand, you need to be able to follow me, okay? And I'm going to go quick, so just follow me, okay? And we're going to do a recap of what we did last lesson, 10 minutes or so, okay? So is Israel occupied territories, and you need to understand this in depth, to get the hang of this. You need to know that God is actually bringing back the Jewish people to the promised land. Now, I've said this a million times. I'm not going to say it again. You got the scriptures in there that actually shows you where you can actually go and look for it, okay? And how God is actually restoring the Jewish people to the land of Israel, to their ancestral land. And first of all, he's restoring them physically, and then he's going to restore them spiritually, okay? And this is in Ezekiel 37. And you can actually look at that in detail on the video that I've done on previous occasion. You can click on that. You can look at the covenant that God have made with the Jewish people. You can actually see that there's a covenant. A covenant is actually made for a lifetime, for forever, okay, for eternity. And therefore, this is the land of the Jewish people, okay? So it's an inheritance that God has given to the Jewish people. And therefore, the Jewish people have not stolen the land. The land was given by God as an inheritance to the Jewish people, and it is a covenant. And you can actually look at that covenant later on, okay? So you have the video there that I put in YouTube, okay? You can actually also look at the video of the latter years, and it is all about the Battle of Gog from the land of Magog, and that is what's happening now. So you guys listen to that if you haven't done so already, okay? And of course, you need to look at the previous lesson that we done on this. You have there the video, you have there the resources. If you have not seen the first lesson, it's going to be difficult for you to understand this one. So you need to go to the first one first and then come and listen to this one afterwards. Okay, so it's part 1 and part 2, and I put the where you can get that. You can just click on the resources and you will get it. Okay, so we're going to do the recap from last week. So you know that this land was called Palestine for 1,900 years, but in reality, it wasn't actually controlled by the Palestinians. Yeah, it was always controlled by another nation. Why? Because this is the center of the earth and is strategically situated in between 3 continents, in between Europe, Asia, and Africa. And because it's actually in the center of the world, the ancient world even, remember that in the ancient times, Americas didn't exist, Australia and New Zealand didn't exist in the minds of people. So the center of the world was the promised land. And therefore, this was controlled by lots and lots of empires. Yeah, if you wanted to enlarge your empire, you need to strategically take hold of the promised land that is in the center and then go to the rest of the world. Yeah, so when the Egyptians were here, they controlled Egypt from the 18th century to the 12th century BC, and they grew going through the promised land towards Syria. Okay, so that was the empire, the Egyptian empire, from the 18th century to the 12th century. Yeah, now when the Syrians wanted to control Egypt, then they would come through Israel and go and control Egypt. When the Turkish wanted to take over the Middle East, they had to come through Greece, through Syria, to the Promised Land, and then take over the Middle East. Okay, so this is actually strategically situation. So you have one nation after another taking control, one empire after another taking control of the land. And in the resources, you will see all the different empires that were here throughout the ages. Yeah, so even though this land was actually called Palestine, it wasn't controlled by the Palestinians. Okay, is that clear? Okay, good. Now, you can actually see the tabla, how do you call it in English? Oh, English, come back to me. How do you call it? Where all the dynasties, you have the Romans, the Byzantines, the Umayyads, the Abbasids, the Fatimids, and so on throughout the ages. And you can see that the Palestinians are nowhere to be seen. Okay? Now, where we're actually taking this, we're looking at whether the Jewish people that returned to the Promised Land in the they started to return to the promised land at the end of the 1800s, whether they actually stole the land from the Palestinians or not, okay? So remember that if the Palestinians never control this land, it means that they don't have a right to say that this land belongs to them and that the Jewish people have stolen the land, yeah? If it never actually belonged to them, you cannot steal something that never, ever in the history of humanity actually belonged to you. Now you need to say, wow, isn't that right? Isn't that right? Okay, so this accusation that Israel have stolen the land from the Palestinians is actually a deception. It's a lie, okay, that the world actually wants to accept for some reason, which is beyond me. Yeah, it's not historically accurate that this land belonged to the Palestinians. It never belonged to the Palestinians ever in the history of humanity. Can you see this? Okay. All right. So now, You can actually see the Ottoman Empire. You can actually see in the resources the Ottoman Empire collapses in 1916, 1917 during the Second World War. And what happens is that the United Nations decides, very hot here, that the United Nations decides to partition the Middle East, to partition the Ottoman Empire like a cake, okay? And give a mandate. It gives a mandate to the British and mandate to the French, okay? And you can see a map there that says the British mandate. Can you see what Palestine was during the British mandate? Look at the size of that land, okay? What it is today, Israel and Jordan, okay? That was Palestine. The two pieces of land, if you like, yeah? And what happens is that the British mandate receives two mandates from the League of Nations at the time, okay? One that they need to, how do you call it? They need to create a national home for the Jewish people, okay? With the Balfour Declaration in 1917. And the second mandate was to prepare the locals for self-rule, okay? Now, you can see that this is actually contradictory. One, that they're going to help the locals for self-rule, and two, that they're going to give the land to make a national home for the Jewish people. This is actually contradictory, okay? Now, what do the British do at the beginning? And this is actually the Hussein McMahon correspondence, is to give part of the land to the Palestinians that today is called Jordan. And you can see in the map, the yellow part of the map is actually what was given to the Palestinians. So if half of the land was actually already, more than half of the land was actually already given to the Palestinians, that means that the other half should have been all of it for the Jewish people. Do you agree with me? Yeah? But what happens is that the Palestinians receive the yellow part, which is to the east of the Jordan River, and it was okay until the Jewish people started to come back to the Promised Land because of all the persecutions that were going on in Europe in the 1920s, 1930s, by the hundreds of thousands of Jews started to come back to the Promised Land. And then the locals, the people that were living on the west side of the Jordan River, said, we do not want these Jews here. This land is ours, they said. Yeah? Was it theirs ever in the history of humanity? Was it ever in their hands? No, this is a lie. Can you see this, guys? Okay? Now, the British wanted to keep the Muslims, the Arab Palestinians, Muslims, yeah, they wanted to keep them in peace. And they said, yeah, this land belongs to you as well. So the British said the same thing to the Jews that were coming back from all the different persecutions before the Holocaust happened. And also they said the same thing to the Palestinians. Oy vey, okay? So what happens is that the British actually, because of their mismanagement, because of their double-heartedness, if you like, promised the same thing to the two people, okay? But in reality, this land to the west of the Jordan River was meant for the national home of the Jewish people. So the British should never have said yes to the Palestinians. Can you see this, guys? Okay? Double standards, okay? So at the beginning, the British were very much pro-Jews and bringing the Jews in and no problem. The Arabs started to rise against the Jewish people, and what happens was that the British actually backed away from the promise given to the Jews and started supporting the Muslims, the Palestinians. And disastrous. Then the Second World War happens. Then the Jewish settlement here in Israel realized that 6 million Jews died during the Holocaust. Okay, and you can imagine the shock, the horror of actually knowing that 6 million of your people have died, yeah? And the Jewish people said, enough is enough. We're not going to listen to the British. We are going to bring the Jewish people back, the Holocaust survivors back to the land, whether the British like it or not. And the Jewish people started to fight the British. The British said, enough is enough. Because they were stuck in between the Palestinians who hated the Jews and the Jews who didn't like the Palestinians and didn't like the British. And they were stuck in the middle, and they said, enough is enough, let's get out of here. And they left the country. And in 1947, Israel gets divided. The United Nations divide Israel in 1947. You can actually see the UN partition of the land in 1947, okay? Number 6, if you like to see the map, okay? So the land gets divided. The Jewish people said yes. The Palestinians said, no way, Jose, all of this belonged to us. It got nothing to do with the Jews. A battle starts in 1947. Israel declares its independence on the 14th of May, 1948. And on the 15th of May, 1948, 5 Arab nations attack Israel all at the same time. 5 Arab nations. We had nothing, no weapons. We stole 2 tanks from the British. Yeah, we had nothing, guys, nothing. And these were 5 Arab Muslim armies, fully equipped, that came to attack Israel, and we won that battle. We won it. Why do I say we won it? Because they didn't manage to kick us into the sea. That's what they were saying, yeah? That they were going to kick Israel into the sea. They were going to throw the Jews into the sea. And they didn't manage. God actually helped us to win this battle, okay? I already talked about it last lesson, so you can actually go into the miracles and everything on the video last lesson, okay? So the land gets divided. Israel said yes, the Arabs said no. And by the way, this was the first time that the Muslims, the Palestinians, said no. If the Palestinians would have said yes at this moment, they would have already had their own state. But they said no. And because they said no, they have no right to the land. They never agree to what the United Nations allocated to them. Can you see this? Yeah? And therefore, they never made their country. The nations that attacked Israel, they were the ones that took over the land that was meant for the Palestinians in 1947. Can you see this? Okay? So they stole the land that was meant for the Palestinians. Now you need to say, wow. Okay? So you can see all these nations surrounding us. These nations start to cause havoc to Israel. Disastrous. Okay? The Syrians in the north were bombarding the Hula Valley. The Jordanians in the West Bank were infiltrating into mainland Israel, murdering people, raping women, you name it, we got them from 1948 to 1967. Almost every single day, they were causing havoc. And then the Egyptians were actually bombarding Israel from Gaza Strip, okay, from the Sinai Peninsula. And it was atrocious. Israel said enough is enough. And in 1967, they kicked them out in 6 days. Okay, 6 days. This is the famous 6-day war. And Israel immediately says to these nations, if you sign a peace treaty with us, we will return everything back immediately. And what do these nations said? No way, Jose. They gave us the 3 famous no. No recognition of Israel, no negotiation, and no peace. Can Israel return the land to these people if they refuse to have a peace treaty with us? No, we cannot. Can you see that? We cannot. Have we stolen the land? No. According to international law, a nation have the right to take over a land if that means the safety of their own people. This is exactly what Israel was doing, trying to keep their own people safe. Yeah. So according to international law of warfare, Israel have all the right of the world to actually take over the land. So why is the United Nations calls us occupiers, conquerors, all the, oppressors? I mean, this is nonsense, nonsense. We try to make a peace treaty with these guys, they refuse. So what can we do? What can we do? Yeah, the United Nations are blinded, against Israel. They're totally blinded. And by the way, this is a part of my book, what I'm sharing with you now. Of course, it's not all of it because I can't cover all of it, but when the book is available, you'll be able to get it. Okay, guys? Now, so we have the 3 no's, okay? You can actually read about it. I put the link that you can actually go and read more about the 6-day war. And then what happens, what do the Muslim countries say to Israel? One day, we're going to get you. One day we're going to kick you into the sea. This is what the Muslim country says to us. And that day almost came in October 1973. This is actually the Yom Kippur War of 1973. That was Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement. This is actually the holiest day in the Jewish people calendar, where everybody is actually fasting, going to synagogue, asking God for forgiveness. No radio, no television, no nothing, no communication, no telephone calls. And the Muslims knew exactly when to attack. They knew the day that we are actually, the most people in the army actually go home. They want to be with their family. They want to fast with their families. Yeah. And 13 nations amass their forces on our border. Golda Meir is actually Prime Minister of Israel. Moshe Dayan is actually the head of the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces. I don't know if you remember the guy with one patch eye, okay, that one. And Golda Meir said to Moshe Dayan, Moshe, we need to call the boys. They're going to attack us. We need to get ready. And Moshe Dayan said to Golda, don't worry. It's all going to be good. Go home, do your stuff. It's all good. They're not going to attack us. But Golda knew in her heart that there was something terribly wrong, and she didn't leave her house that day. And sure enough, on Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, 13 nations attacked Israel all at the same time. And they caught us with our pants down, okay? They caught us totally. These 13 nations advanced for 2 days with nothing stopping them. 10,000 people died during these 2 days in Israel alone, okay? Disastrous, okay? The Egyptians are actually coming in from the south, the Syrians coming in from the north. And what they want to do, they want to cut Israel in two. The Syrians were going to take the north of the country. The Egyptians were going to take the south of the country. That was the plan. After 2 days of advancing, they stop. Why do they stop? Because they said this is too easy and Israel is going to ram us from behind. They stop out of fear. We were in disarray. We were a total mess here in Israel, okay? And they stopped. This is the first miracle. They stopped for 1 day, and that was enough to turn the war over. 1 day, okay? It gave a respite to the Jewish people to be able to turn this war over. And what I'm going to tell you is miracles after miracles after miracles that happened during this time. And it's pretty awesome what God actually did. The first one, the Syrians wanted to take the Golan Heights, okay? Remember that in 1967, Israel actually took over the Golan Heights. And they, I don't know if I put the map here of what's happened. No. Okay, so the Syrians actually took over tried to take over the Golan Heights. They couldn't do it. Okay, we had some Israelis fighting against the tanks of the Syrians. Just to give you an idea what was going on here, the Syrians and the armies that joined them had 1,700 tanks, which was actually the biggest force of tanks that the world ever seen to that time. Israel had 169 tanks guarding the Golan Heights. 1 to 10, can you see this? Pretty amazing, okay? So, and the Syrians could not take over the Golan Heights. Could not, okay? They were trying, but they could not. And let me tell you what happened with one of the commanders of a tank unit. He was in Yom Kippur, in the Day of Atonement, outside of Israel. He hears that Israel has been attacked. And what does he do? He comes back to Israel on Yom Kippur, on the Day of Atonement, and goes to hospital, makes the young men that man the tanks to sign themselves out because they were all injured. And he goes and attacks the Syrian forces with 13 tanks, 8 of which he had to repair. At this time, the Syrians still had about 600 to 700 tanks. And when they see this guy coming with 13 tanks, they start to retreat. And we haven't got the faintest idea why they're retreating, why they're not fighting, okay? And decades later, the Israeli historians that go to the Syrians that were manning the tanks and saying to them, guys, why did you retreat? Why didn't you fight? What happened to you? And the Syrians said like this, that they saw angels surrounding the Israeli tanks. They saw an incredible light behind the tank, the Israeli tank unit. And they were terrified of that. And they turned around and they went to Damascus. They head towards Damascus. The Israeli tank unit of 13 tanks, they chased the 600 or 700 tanks of the Syrians to the border with Damascus. They phoned up Golda and said, Golda, what do you want us to do? They're on the border with Damascus. And Golda said, come back to the Golan Heights. Come and guard the Golan Heights. Don't go into Damascus, okay? So this is exactly what the tank unit did. Now, what happened with the Egyptians? The Egyptians actually got to 22 kilometers from Tel Aviv in those 2 days that they advanced. If they would have advanced even a few more hours, they would have taken Tel Aviv. I mean, that was disastrous, yeah, if they would have taken Tel Aviv. And they didn't. They just stopped 22 kilometers south of Tel Aviv. And on that day that they stopped, they went underground. And even though the Israeli forces, the Israeli air forces were actually bombarding them from above, the Egyptian forces were underground. They were in the trenches, and therefore they were quite happy. They didn't want to move, yeah? So what do the Israeli forces do? They stake beehives and they throw the beehives into the trenches. And you should see the Egyptian forces running for their lives. They left the tank behind. By the way, we used the tanks for subsequent wars. And then we put them in a museum. They're in the Latrun Museum here outside of Jerusalem. So, they run, okay? They run. They go into the jeeps without shoes, without the artillery, without the tanks. They run away. They go into the jeeps, and as soon as the head of the Egyptian forces turn around, the whole of the army turns around and starts to go through Gaza. It goes to the Sinai, cross the Sinai to the other side of the Suez Canal. And the head of this chasing away of the Egyptians was Moshe Dayan, the guy with one patch eye. And Moshe Dayan, outside of Cairo, he actually surrounds Egyptian forces, about 3,000 men. And he phones up Golda and says, Golda, let me kill them. Let me kill them. And Golda Meir says, are you nuts? Are you going to kill people that already given up? Don't kill them. Let them go into Cairo. Let them get into Cairo. So you can actually see the documentaries of the time when the arms of the armed forces actually open up, and then the Egyptian soldiers walking into Cairo barefooted, okay, was amazing what God actually did. Moshe Dayan phones up Golda. Golda says to him, go cross, get out of the area of Cairo. They were outside of Cairo. Get out of the area of Cairo, cross the Suez Canal and take over the Sinai, yeah? Just hold on to the Sinai Peninsula and don't let them take hold of the Suez Canal. You look after the Suez Canal. That's what the Israeli forces did, okay? Now, let me tell you another miracle that happened, and I love the miracles because, it's just pretty amazing. And this miracle that I'm going to relate to you is in a documentary that is called Against All Odds. If you haven't seen it, it used to be in YouTube, but it's not anymore. You will have to buy it in Amazon or something like that. And in this documentary, comes Nixon. Nixon is talking. Nixon is giving an interview. And you know who Nixon was, yeah? He was the prime minister, the president of the United States in 1973. And Nixon said that when he was a little boy, his mom, who was actually a Christian, said to him, she prophesied over this child, and he said to him, one day you're going to be the president of the United States. But it's not for yourself, it's for the people of God. And they will come to you one day with an existential threat. And you better help them. She said, I love that mother. I wish I could meet her, okay? You better help them, she said to him. And sure enough, in 1973, Golda Meir phones him up at 3 in the morning, gets him out of bed in October 1973. And she said to him, we have an existential threat. exactly what his mother said when he was a little boy. Look at this, guys. Everything that Golda asked is everything that Golda got. This was the biggest liftoff of armaments that the world ever seen in the history of humanity. He sent tanks, artillery, ammunition, weapons, you name it, she got it. Everything she asked, okay? And one day, so one day, one of my tours, I had the cousin of Nixon in my tour. And he said to me, Sonia, do you know why Golda got everything so quickly? And I said, no, I haven't got the faintest idea. Tell me. I was so excited. And he said to me, everything was packed for Vietnam. And instead of going to Vietnam, he came to Israel. Remember that at this time, the Americans wanted to get their forces out of Vietnam, okay? What Nixon was trying to do at this time is bringing the boys home. This is what he was trying to do. And here is everything was actually packed for Vietnam, and instead of going to Vietnam, he came to Israel. And this is another of the great miracles. Many miracles are actually, I'm mentioning them on my book. So when the book is available, you'll be able to get it, okay? Amazing. Now, let me tell you this, guys. We should have lost that war because these guys they had a force, a lot bigger than ours. But the Lord of Israel, the God of Israel, did not allow the Jewish people to get out of here. Remember, there is a plan of God to bring the Jewish people back home physically and restore them spiritually. If God decided that we're going to be here, we are going to be here no matter what the world says. Can you see this? Yeah? Okay. So the first people to actually turn around and sign a peace treaty with Israel is actually the Egypt. Okay, and you can actually see the peace treaty with Egypt. You can actually see a map that actually put on there, and what you can actually see, the Egyptians wanted the Sinai back. Okay, and Israel agreed to it with several conditions. One, they cannot bring heavy weaponry inside the Sinai. Remember that the Jewish people wanted to protect their own people, yeah? So they said to Egypt, do not bring heavy weapons inside Sinai. The Egyptians said, yeah, no problem. And the Israelis said to them, you must not close the Strait of Tiran. That was one of the problems. This was actually international water. They shouldn't be closing it anyway. So the Egyptians agree with it. And also, they said, Israel said to them, we want to trade, we want petrol, we want gas. And the Egyptians agree with it. By the way, recently we have found gas, huge reservoirs of gas off the coast of Haifa, and now we're selling gas to Egypt. It's the other way around today. But the peace treaty with Egypt held, even though Sadat, who was the president of Egypt, got murdered after signing the peace treaty with Israel. The peace treaty still holds until today, okay? Which is very good for us. The next peace treaty, and this is actually very important for you to understand, okay, what is the situation today. And this is the peace treaty with Jordan. You actually have it in your resources, okay? Ali, shalom, darling. She goes, oh, yo. She's so sweet. Okay, so you have it in your resources, the peace treaty with Egypt, with Jordan. And remember that Israel held onto the West Bank until 1960, the Jordanians held onto the West Bank until 1967. Israel kicks them out of there in 1967, but it wasn't until 1994, 1995 that Israel signs a peace treaty with them. And there are four main conditions. Jordan said to Israel, we cede the land to Israel. What does to cede the land to Israel means? That the land actually belongs to Israel. Am I clear here? Yes? They ceded the land to Israel for four conditions. What are the four conditions? One, water from the Sea of Galilee. You see, the Jordanians do not have their own water sources. Their own fresh water sources. And therefore, Israel said, yes, from that moment on, from 1994, 1995, Israel is providing water for the country Jordan out of the Sea of Galilee. So that little sea provides water for 13 million people, okay? And not only that, because of the war in Syria, 2 million Syrian refugees landed in Jordan. And therefore, Israel have tripled the amount of water given to Jordan. Look at this, guys. We are giving water to the Syrians who are our worst enemies. Can you see this? Yeah? So have we stolen the land? No. We have a peace treaty with Jordan. We're providing water to Jordan from 1994, 1995 until today, until Yeshua comes back. Yeah. So actually, we hold on to the land because we have a peace treaty. Can you see this? Okay. The second part of the peace treaty is that they wanted some territory south near Eilat. Israel said yes, so Israel actually passed the land to the Jordanians. The third part is that the cities that have a majority Palestinian in the West Bank will stay in the hands of the Palestinian Authority. And Israel said yes. What does that mean? That these cities have the right to rule themselves, okay? They have their own authority, but Israel controls the security of the West Bank. Israel provides electricity to the city, provides water to the cities, yeah? So you can actually say that even though they have their own independence in inverted commas, they really are under the authority and the protection of Israel. Yeah, Israel is protecting the whole of the West Bank, including the cities. Can you see this? Okay. So they wanted water, the Jordanians, they wanted land, which Israel have given. They wanted that the cities that have a majority Palestinian will stay in the hands of Palestinians. Israel agreed to it, okay? And the fourth condition, and this is actually very, very important, that the Temple Mount, where the first temple was built and the second temple was built, will be actually stay in the hands of the Muslims. And Israel said yes. And this is why we cannot build our third temple, because we haven't got the space to actually build that temple. Can you see this? Yeah. So this is the situation with the West Bank today. Now, I have been asked several times, what about this peace treaty that Jared, I think is called Trump's peace treaty, okay? Yes, Heidi, it is a very generous peace treaty, okay? Now, I'm going to talk about the plan of Trump in a minute, but you can see who does the West Bank actually belongs to? If we have a peace treaty with Jordan, if the Palestinians have always refused every single treaty that we try to make with them, and we have tried 8 times, to whom does the land belongs to? To Israel. Can you see this? Okay. By the way, this is actually Judea and Samaria. This is the ancestral land of the tribes of Israel. So, you know, even historically speaking, politically speaking, biblically speaking, this land belongs to us. And yet, the United Nations, until today, they're saying that this land is occupied territories. Oy vey! Unbelievable. Unbelievable. They reject the peace treaty that we made with Jordan. They reject it. Have you ever heard the United Nations rejecting a peace treaty that was made between 2 sovereign nations? Unbelievable. Unbelievable. So what is Israel meant to do? If the Palestinians refuse to actually make a peace treaty with us, what are we meant to do? Are we meant to leave this land uncontrolled? What's going to happen if the Palestinians actually take over this land? Look what happened with Gaza. Israel unilaterally left Gaza in 2005, and Hamas took over, which is actually a terrorist organization. We already, from that moment on, we already had 3 wars against Gaza, and we continuously have problems because they bring armament and they start shooting to Israel from that side. If we leave the West Bank to the Palestinians, do you think we are going to have peace? No, they don't want us here. They have never acknowledged that Israel is here. Even though we provide them with water, we provide them with electricity, we actually try to help them as much as we can. Okay? And we still get this stuff from them. Can we leave them? Can we leave the West Bank and leave the place? We cannot. Can you see this? What does the United Nations want Israel to do? Okay, so here comes Trump. He makes a peace treaty. What Trump's wanted to do is actually to give lots of money to the Palestinian Authority to revive the economy of the Palestinian Authority, and for Israel to take over the territories. You see, let me explain. In the West Bank, we have 3 different zones. We have Zone A, which are the Palestinian land, well, Palestinian areas run by the Palestinians. We have Zone B, which is actually land that is run both by the Israelis and by the Palestinians. Like, for example, Hebron. Hebron is the Arab Muslim Palestinian area, and you have right next to Kiryat Arba, which is a Jewish area. Okay, that's Zone B. And then you have another zone that is called Zone C, that is actually where the Jewish settlements are, which Israel wants to annex those settlements to mainland Israel, okay? So if you like, the border to be surrounding these Jewish settlements to protect them, really. Can you see this, okay? Now, what do the Palestinians say? They reject it, okay? They reject this as well. They always reject every peace treaty that was tried to do. Why? Because they do not recognize Israel as a sovereign state. They think that Israel is a mistake in history, it shouldn't happen. So they want to ignore Israel. But you see, if they're not willing to sit with us and come to an agreement with us, what are we meant to do? What are we meant to do? Can you see that? Have we stolen the land? No. We tried to come to a resolution with these guys. They're refusing. They're refusing. Okay? Have they ever controlled the land in the history of humanity? No. How can they say that we stole the land from them when in fact it never belonged to them in the first place? And another thing, the Palestinians received all of what is today Jordan, which is actually a territory double the size of what Israel is today. Have we stolen the land? Can you see this? This is actually a deception. The enemy is deceiving the nations. This is what he's doing. He's deceiving the nations against Israel. And in fact, we're actually doing everything we can. You know, Gaza is our worst enemy. We provide them with water. We provide them with electricity. And they still throw us bombs to here. You know, and what if we cut off the water and the electricity to these guys? Are they going to survive? I mean, it's unbelievable. Why doesn't the world can see what Israel is doing? Not only that, we provide them with tons, lorry loads of food that is going into Gaza constantly for these people. Israel is providing them with the food free of charge. And you know what the Hamas is doing? Selling the food to the people instead of giving it to them. Unbelievable. Unbelievable, guys. Anyway, do you understand? Any questions? Any questions? If you have any questions, and all this is actually part of my book. I haven't spoken about Jerusalem, okay? That is in the book. There's so much resources there, so much more pictures, so much more everything in the book. When it's ready, I will let you know, guys, and you can purchase it if you like, okay? Any questions? Any questions? Okay. Yeah, Ron, we try to bless our enemies. You do not return evil with evil with good. And let me tell you another thing about the West Bank. Many things. First of all, the Palestinian Authority is highly corrupted. Highly corrupted. They received 15 times more money than the Marshall Plan to reconstruct Europe after the Second World War. 15 times more money. And what have they done with the money? They have stolen it. They have stolen it. They don't give account of where the money is going. So, for example, Yasser Arafat, who was the head of the Palestinian Authority until he died, he received $1 million a month as his salary. After he died, his family moved away. They went to Europe and they're living with that money. Okay? Now, Abbas, who is the present president of the Palestinian Authority, is even more corrupt than Yasser Arafat. Disastrous, disastrous. And they keep the population in poverty. And why do they keep them in poverty? To blame Israel. Israel is to blame that we are in this situation. Okay? But they're stealing the money. They're using the money from the United Nations. Now, Trump was actually giving them lots of millions of dollars, $300 million for the education of the Palestinian children in the West Bank. And they found out that the Palestinians were actually teaching their children anti-Semitism with the books. Trump said to them, you need to change the curriculum, change those books, or we're going to cut the money that is going to the schools. They ignore it. The United Nations ignored it. The United Nations was running those schools. They ignore it completely. And what does Trump do? He cut the money, $300 million every year that was given to the school system of the Palestinians here. And they were teaching anti-Semitism. Amazing, right? Okay, let's see the questions. Okay, are the people in Gaza? I don't understand what you're saying, Ali. Yeah, Roxanne, when it's available, darling, I will let you know. Ali, are the people in Gaza all opposed to Israel? No. What happens in Gaza is that they're under a terrorist organization, Hamas, and if they say anything against Hamas, they get killed. The same with the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank. This is why it's a dictatorship what's going on. It's not a democracy in the West Bank, it's a dictatorship. Abbas been in power for forever, okay? And if the people in the West Bank say anything against Abbas and the Palestinian Authority, they get murdered and they cannot say anything. But let me tell you another thing. The people in the West Bank, even though they don't say anything, they want to be part of Israel. How do we know this? Because in the West Bank, they can get 3 different passports. They can get the passport from Jordan if they apply for it. They can get a passport from the Palestinian Authority, or they can get a passport from Israel. Okay, they had to apply for citizenship in Israel. And if they don't have any police record or whatever, they can get Israeli citizenship. Okay, 80% of the people that applied for passports from the West Bank, they want to receive Israeli passport. They want to be part of Israel. They see what corrupt the Palestinian Authority is, and they want to be part of Israel. Now, the world will not tell you this. The world will ignore this, yeah, because they don't want to show you that Israel is doing anything good. The media is lying left, right, and center regarding Israel, okay? And really, to help the Palestinians in the West Bank, they should be part of us, not under the Palestinian Authority. Can you see this? Okay. Why can't the Palestinians move to Jordan? That would be very good. But what happens is that Jordan is in a terrible situation. It's like a third world country. If they're here in the West Bank, they can come to Israel to work. At least they have work in Israel. Okay? What is the difference between Hamas and Fatah? So Hamas are a more extreme terrorist organization, and Fatah is also a terrorist organization, but not so extreme. But they're the same problem here, okay? Okay. All right, guys, I think it's all for today. May the Lord bless you. Let me give you the Aaronic blessing in Hebrew, okay? יברכך אדוני וישמרך, יאיר אדוני פניו אליך ויחונך וישים לכם. Shalom. Shalom, shalom. Shalom a todos. Shalom, everybody. And next Tuesday, we'll be looking at the next deception. I can't remember what's the name of it. Okay, so may the Lord bless you, guys, and may His face shine upon you and give you peace. Amen. Okay, bye. God bless you, everybody. God bless. All right. God bless you. Bye bye. Bye.